Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Clocked In with the Press, hosted at Altman Studios in beautiful downtown Brentwood, California. In this podcast, we highlight news stories, individuals, and organizations that deserve your attention. This is your host, Melissa Van Rooten, clocking in. For today's episode, we're welcoming back Leticia Wiesner and Karen Smith from the nonprofit organization Futures Explored. But before we begin, let's hear a quick word from this episode's sponsor.
This episode of Clocked In with the Press is sponsored by Bill Brandt Ford at 8100 Brentwood Boulevard, right here in Brentwood. For award-winning sales, service, and all your Ford needs, think Bill Brandt Ford at 8100 Brentwood Boulevard.
So ladies, thank you so much for being back with us. I know that you were one of our original guests many months ago, and so we're very pleased to have you back. And so for those who didn't hear your first interview with us, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and the Futures Explored organization?
Certainly, and thank you so much for having us again. It's always a delight, and we really appreciate the opportunity to share about Futures Explored. Futures Explored is a nonprofit located in the East Bay and in Sacramento, and we provide services to about 450 adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we do it through a variety of programs, be it community connections, which Leticia will speak about, or film and media, or personal wellness. And then, of course, we also have supported education and employment. We've been around for about 60 years, and we just provide a variety of services for these individuals and their families.
I'd love to hear, tell us a little bit about how Futures Explored began.
Oh, I love this. And I really appreciate you asking this because I think it's important to always circle back to the founding of any organization. So about 60 years ago, in the early 60s, a mom that had a child, a young man with a developmental disability, decided that the path forward really was through independence. And so she created this nonprofit. And in the 60s, this was a very radical thought that during that time, individuals with developmental disabilities, when they were born or young, oftentimes were put in an institution. Families did not talk about it. It was very sheltered. A lot of shame went with it. And so this mom said, nope, my son, I love him. He's amazing. And along with 6 other individuals, formed this nonprofit and said, you need to be independent, and that is through employment. And so the folks in the organization created through arts and crafts and sold them. And so our beginnings really is in supported employment. And from that, we've moved out. And even today, our bylaws are very clear that at least 1/3 of our board members need to either have a developmental disability or be a family member of someone that does. So we've carried that forward. And we know that as we talk about disabilities, that it's so important that throughout the organization, but certainly at leadership, that it is represented by folks that we provided services to.
So tell me a little bit about the role you play with Futures Explored.
Sure. So I'm the executive director and very honored to have that role. And as we talked about, our mission statement begins with the statement led by participant choice. And when we use participant, that word represents the individuals that come to our program. And so everything that we do is led through the eyes and desires of the participants. It's not me or staff saying, oh, I think this is what's going to be best, or family members. It really is through the choice of the individual. And so my role there is executive director, and just really honored to be able to lead the organization, leaning into this mission and creating different opportunities so that we can truly live the mission.
Wonderful. Leticia, how about you?
Thank you. And thank you for having us again. And we are always looking forward to just connecting with community and being able to voice what we do. My role with the organization is I'm the director for community connections. And basically, what that means is we are connecting our participants to be more involved with community. So the example I like to give is in the past modalities were taking out participants in a group and maybe visiting the library outside. So now what we're doing is we're having our participants, if they choose to, go to the library and get their library card and participate in all the functions that are offered with the library. So that being said, it's finding amazing outings. It could be, I just found an animal rescue place that's looking to maybe have participants come in and feed the animals, thinking a little bit more outside the box where they're involved and immersed in community.
How long have you both been with the organization?
Not very long. So I started in August of 21, I want to say. No, 20. It's during the pandemic.
Time's not real then, right?
So like, when was that? But one of the values of Futures Explored is that we have individuals that have been there on average 10 to 15 years. So I'm really quite a newbie.
That speaks volumes, though,
Yeah.
to have that retention.
Mm-hmm.
Leticia, how long have you been?
I have been with Futures almost a year. I'm getting
Nice.
really close to closing that first year gap.
Wonderful.
So it has been amazing. It's been challenging, but also it's been so wonderful just to see the dedication of staff and participants moving forward. So really excited about moving forward with the organization.
So give us some more detail on who Futures Explored serves and the areas that your organization serve.
As mentioned, we serve primarily in the East Bay and then also Sacramento. So that means that we have facilities and programs in Concord, in Brentwood, in Antioch, in Livermore. And those are the 4 areas in the East Bay. And then Sacramento is pretty much out towards McClellan and downtown Sacramento. And also we have programs in Yolo County, in Woodland. And so individuals come, and Stockton. And so people come from all areas. So we have individuals that live in Fairfield that are headed to programs that live in Davis. It really is what they're looking for and for us to match up with them. So we have 4 main areas. And so one is personal wellness, and that is a program here that provides services to those individuals that have more severe medical needs. And so that is here in both Brentwood and Livermore. And then we also have supported employment and education. And those are the individuals that want to work, that we help them find their work, and then also provide job coaching supports when they're in the workplace. And as you can imagine, during this time right now, the difficulty of finding employees, it's a great time for us because many employers that before maybe we weren't within their view, now their view is wider and they're calling us, and many organizations are starting programs. And so it's a very exciting time because the individuals that we provide services to want to work, just like all of us here. We all work and we love it, and it brings us a lot of different things. We also have community connections, as Leticia spoke about. And then we have film and media studios, which are in Stockton, Livermore, and Sacramento. And they provide those individuals, their goals is to work in the industry, and they may want to be an editor, a camera person, costume designer, actor, any of those jobs. And so we provide hands-on experience, and that they get the experience through, be it our production company or through gigs. And then it's on their resume, and we have job developers and contacts that then help them get jobs in the field.
That is really cool. And it actually brings me to our next question, which, Leticia, this might be one for you. I saw that you have the summer film camp coming up, and I'd love to hear more about what that will entail.
The film and media programs, the director there, her name is Hester Wagner. So she oversees those programs. But if I may, the camp, which comes up every year, and we coordinate with Joey Travolta and his team. And that is, yes, John Travolta's brother. And they all get together and do a camp to help facilitate learning about film and media and all that entails.
It's a great opportunity because our programs primarily serve adults. And so the film camp is opened up to youth. And so it's difficult sometimes to find the right camp for your child. And this is just a fantastic opportunity where young people can go to camp, and it is a buzz of activity to go to. They are there for 2 weeks now. During the pandemic, it was limited, but now we're back in full swing. 2 weeks, and they do everything from writing the script to designing the sets, the costumes, acting it, producing it. And then in the fall, they have a premiere, red carpet, where they all come, we watch the film, and have a fabulous time afterwards. But two things it does. One, it provides an opportunity for youth to enjoy a summer camp. Also, it introduces families and youth to our film and media studios so that when they do graduate or come eligible at age 22 to enter our programs, they know about us. But really what it does is just brings such joy to all of us during the film camp. So it's just something we'll have to invite you to. It's just so much fun.
I would love that. Summer camp was one of my favorite parts of growing up, and I am still friends 30 plus years later with many of the people that I befriended at my summer camp.
And we have individual students that come year after year. And that's why it was so hard during the pandemic. No socialization in person. We can't wait for this year. We have a cap of 50, and I think we're right about 45. So if there are people listening that are interested, you can contact us. If we are full, there is a waiting list. And we're thinking about doing smaller camps throughout the year. So there may be other opportunities.
Fantastic. And just to get it out there, the website is
www.futures, FUTURES explored, EXPLORED.org. And that's my spelling bee for today.
Fantastic. And I know that the summer camp banner, when you're on your page, it pops right up, so you can't miss it.
You cannot miss it. So
fantastic. So summer camp is coming back full swing. That's exciting. Are there any new programs or services that you've added since the last time we spoke?
Well, one of the new programs is the Community Connections. One of the biggest pushes right now, especially with federal monies that are coming out, are looking at community immersion. So that is something we're focusing on and looking at opening up opportunities, more opportunities for our participants to enjoy a community relationships, building connections with organizations, sponsors. So it's the whole gamut right now. We're looking at really growing what we do, and we do follow our person-centered modality. And what that is that we have the participant make all the decisions for their program. So we are very person-centered. And I was asked this the other day about, is it a wraparound service, which is more of a mental health where it supports around the person. This is more their decisions and more in the realm of the disabilities we serve. So we're seeing our participants being more involved in life skills, social skills, and also growing where they're more independent. And one of the gaps that we do see is in jobs and employment, and being able to close that gap for our participants if they so choose to go to work. And we have programs that are designed around that as well to help support them through the soft skills, the hard skills, to keep them going.
Wonderful. So it's more like you're facilitating them being able to take the control for themselves rather than rely on maybe a mental health professional to say, well, you need this, this, and this. Instead, is clients the right word? Students?
Yeah, we use participants.
Participants, thank you. So your participants, they're able to make those choices for themselves, advocate for themselves, and it makes it a little easier for them to be out there and say, no, I'm living my life.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's life.
Yeah.
They're out in life, and they're able to make their own choices about what their goals are. So we do have yearly
Goal setting.
yeah, and they choose what those goals are. They choose what they want to work on, and they have friendships that they have built and are going out more and more, and we're trying to facilitate that, especially now with the pandemic sort of ceasing a little bit. So we're looking at what can we do to enhance those possibilities.
That being said, do you have any other new programs in development that you might offer down the road?
Not really. I think right now what we are doing, as we're all adjusting to moving more freely, amongst people, it's really enhancing that. Certainly before the pandemic, it was all in person, high touch. And then one of the blessings that came out of the pandemic was moving to online services. And so as we reopen sites and participants are able, more willing, more comfortable coming back on a frequent basis, some people really enjoy being online and participating in class, or there may be other limiting factors. And so a new service, even though it's been with us a couple years, is saying that we are keeping that online service so individuals that want that can still have it. So that's a good thing. So.
Wonderful. It still offers them the connection, even if they're not necessarily feeling safe being in person, or maybe they just would rather have that online component.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people they're like, I don't have to go and be amongst other people. This is fantastic.
Yeah, so it's exactly the same. But again, by choice, and not saying everybody has to come back or everyone has to be online. Just like your friends, colleagues are debating, do I want to go back into a workplace? And how can I negotiate that with my employer? Or what are my choices? It is no different. So we're pulling that through in that regards.
Well, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about the importance of an organization such as Futures Explored in today's society, some different language surrounding persons with developmental and intellectual disabilities, and we'll talk a little bit about Autism Awareness Month and Mental Health Awareness Month. But first, let's hear a word from this episode's sponsor.
Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Bill Brandt Ford at 8100 Brentwood Boulevard. Speaking personally, I've used the Service Center at Bill Brandt Ford several times, and I've always been impressed by their commitment to the customer. I used to have this real lemon of a Ford Fusion that I bought from a less reputable dealer, and Dave, the service advisor at Bill Brandt, moved mountains to keep that thing running. My younger sister bought a car from Bill Brandt a couple years ago, and their finance department worked with her budget, and now she drives a nicer car than me. But don't just take my word for it. Bill Brandt Ford is the recipient of the prestigious President's Award from the Ford Motor Company. Only 340 of the roughly 5,000 dealerships nationwide can say the same. Locally, the community has voted them Best of Brentwood for sales and service. Bill Brandt aims to give customers the best dealership experience possible. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today at 925-634-3551 for all your sales and service needs, or visit BillBrandtFord.com. That's Bill, BRANDT, Ford.com.
Thanks so much for staying tuned. We're going to hop right back into it. And I would love to know why you think an organization such as Futures Explored is so important in today's society.
Great question. And I really appreciate you asking the question. So, oftentimes people have questions or curiosity and they feel uncomfortable asking. So, as Leticia was talking about, individuals or participants going in the community, people often like, well, I'm uncomfortable. And what we try and portray and support people in the community is like anyone. We all want to be seen. We all want to tell our story. We want respect and inclusion. So if you're curious, ask the individual. And oftentimes, as you can imagine, people have perceptions like they do anything. And so we may go into a restaurant and the person taking the order will look to me rather than to the participant and says, "What do you think she wants?" And we'll say, "Well, ask her." And so there's a lot of training, if you want to use that word, more for community, so it can be an inclusive community. And so the more we talk about it and ask questions, we just all learn. And it's not a judgment, it's not a shame, it's just time for us to talk about it, talk about what are the individual stories. And of course, that also centers around language. And a lot of people have questions. Well, do you want to be described with your disability? We just came out of Autism Awareness Month. So, do we identify the person as having autism, or do we identify the person as who they are? And we use the language that puts the person first, as we've been talking all morning. And so, but then there's some individuals that'll say, no, I really want that as part of when I talk about myself, because that's a critical part of who I am. So again, it's asking the individual and going forth. And as I was thinking about this today, I was really thinking that's what we all want. We all want to be seen for who we are. And that's what person first is. And so when I meet you or anyone, I want to learn about you and not necessarily about your disability or your gender or your race or anything else that's a label that commonly describes you. Say, tell me your story and tell me what you like and what's a good day for you, what makes you happy, or what's challenging in your life. And as we're sitting here and speaking with you, if I asked you those questions, she's like, oh, I like music, or I like to read, or I like to run. And that defines you as a person, not that you're in broadcasting so much. Or maybe broadcasting really is what brings you the most joy. And you're like, I'm about broadcasting.
It is a huge help to know there are people who would like person first language to be used, but then there are people who would like that identity first language to be used. And it's not going to be a blanket 100% we want it this way in any certain group of people, or no, we want it this way. And so it's always a good reminder to just ask.
Just ask.
And again, it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice that we allow anyone to have. And it's enlightening when you do talk to participants. You just ask them, they will tell you. And they're very open and bright and amazing. And you start understanding a lot more. And again, very individualized what their likes or dislikes are as a person, and not so much what their disability is. So it ties back into, the community connections and the community communication. And that's something that we are fostering, we are pushing, we are really trying to get woven into the day-to-day conversations that we have.
So we did just get out of Autism Awareness Month, and now May is Mental Health Awareness Month. What are some of the different opportunities that you're able to provide some of your participants?
So with someone maybe that has autism, and they decide they don't want to be coming, being in a group, a tightly knit group, it's their choice. So we work around that. One of the things that we are doing is we've opened a few offices. So keeping in mind, even our offices, the color schemes, the openness, there's no restrictions, or it's not a muted color that affects the sensory part of autism. Just taking into consideration these small adjustments is making all the difference. So you see that joy as they come into the offices, that they see that they're feeling comfortable, they're feeling safe, they're feeling supported. And it's just those small little nuances that we can add as an organization to help support and provide things that may be what makes them feel well.
Even though about a third of our participants identify as having autism, we really don't create our services based on their disability. We're certainly aware of it. We have the knowledge. We have medical information that's needed, etc. Our staff is so incredible and so in tune to the individuals that they provide services to. They are asking them and then creating the right space or the right outings or the right opportunities so that the individuals can thrive, so that they feel fulfilled, have enjoyment, but yet they get to show up who they are and be authentic in that way. So it's not a program that is specific to any one disability.
I love that. You say about a third of your participants
And
have an autism diagnosis. What would you say, just a general idea, the amount that might also have a mental health?
I don't have that data point. There's all sorts of mental health, and there's also trauma from a variety of life experiences. So all of the work that we do is through the lens of trauma-informed care. And so that certainly plays into mental health, but we don't have a data point on that.
Yeah, and we do understand that there are some co-occurring, and like Karen said, it's not designing everything around one lane, but our participants are just coming to our programs and telling us what they would like. And then we are, as an organization, looking at how
Sure,
can
sure.
we enhance their experience as they move forward.
And just build on
Right.
where they are when they come in. You meet them where they are, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. I would like to jump back, Karen, real quick. You mentioned trauma-informed care. Tell us a little bit about what that means for those that might not know.
Trauma-informed care just means that when we look at different practices, that it is through the lens of acknowledging what trauma is and then providing those services in that area. And so certainly the pandemic, that was traumatizing for everyone. And so when we are providing services, interacting with our participants, it really is with the knowledge that, like right now, coming back to in-person facility might be difficult because they're fearful and there's been trauma from it, or re-socializing. So before the pandemic, got into a routine. They came 5 days a week. Same people were there, so very comfortable. And so now it's like not the same people are there. They're not coming 5 days a week. It's not a routine. So it's more just having that knowledge that this is occurring so we can be more flexible, more understanding, and to some degrees innovative in how we approach it or asking questions. And so that's how we look at trauma-informed care, is acknowledging that trauma has occurred and how can we provide services in that regard.
I feel like society has taken a step back in that area. After 2+ years now, people just aren't sure how to interact anymore. So they just go to the basis human layer of, well, I'm going to shout about it, or I'm going to,
There's a lot of behaviors, and it really is stepping back and taking that moment to say, gosh, I wonder why this is happening, and inquiring and asking, but really coming from that thought process. I wonder what's happening, and the pandemic is hugely impacting all of our programs and how we provide services.
So we allow participants to come back in doses if they'd like, and that's where we have found that the virtual supports that we have built a program around are helping to support that. So if they do not feel like coming into program one day, they can still participate in the workshops that are vetted and designed to help support them. And they could do a day there, they could come in. So it's in doses, so when they're ready. And also, we provide information for their supports as well, their families, because there's still fear that if they come back, we're making sure that we are following all the guidelines to keep them safe as well.
For sure. So pandemic aside, I would love to know the challenges that you've both faced in your time so far with Futures Explored.
Well, it's hard to put the pandemic aside.
What?
So always for a nonprofit is funding. And so the majority of our funding comes from the state of California. And as we are in budget season, the legislators are looking to approve the state budget. Sadly, services for individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities is at the bottom of the list. Many other areas have received tremendous funding. The state of California has a surplus in their budget. So I would say always advocating to whoever you can that we need more funding. Unfortunately, because of our low funding, we pay our individuals very low, minimum wage, and slightly above that, and they do incredible work. That has always been a challenge, is hiring individuals, and it's even more difficult now. So I would say funding and hiring individuals is our two biggest challenges right now, and actually always has been before the pandemic and now. It does take one that is passionate and enjoys having fun and enjoys interacting with people. And I mean, most of our programs are just super fun. We're going into the community, we're going to Giants games, we're going to the park, we're going to restaurants and just hanging out with great people. And so some of it can be physically demanding, but it really is a fantastic job for people that are interested in social work and interaction with people. And of course, then we also have jobs. We need the business person, we need the HR person. So it's really a great organization. And so I would just say it's anyone that wants to be aligned with an organization that has a clear mission, but is a fun place to work.
So, and people can look on your website again
Absolutely.
and see if you're hiring.
It's got a career page. We're always hiring.
Fantastic. Leticia, what are some of your favorite parts of working with Futures Explored in this past year?
I'm going to say number one, participants. It is a joy when you walk in and those smiles and that joyous atmosphere that you walk into. Karen said the word fun. It's fun. It's an organization that cares and that is there to support our participants. And I'd like to reiterate what Karen just said, that we are in such need of staff to keep our programs going, growing, and looking to the future. So if you look on our website, if you look on Indeed, if you look at any places that you can find where employment is, please come to our website, apply, because we really need that. And I think to keep promoting the fun and the good things that Futures does, we do need that.
It sounds amazing. And if I were in social work, you would have me sold. Thank you so much for being here today. I have definitely learned quite a bit, and I hope our listeners have as well. Reminding the listeners out there, write to your state assembly people, write to your senators, write to your county supervisors, anybody you can to advocate for programs such as Futures Explored to get the funding that they need. Check out their website, www.futures-explored.org, if you are interested in a career with the organization. And it does truly sound like it will become a career, just to make a wonderful impact and difference in the participants' lives. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I I'm looking forward to our next meeting, which I will hope happen, in a few months. We'll talk about how film camp went and all of that. That is it for today's episode of Clocked In with the Press. I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen in, and be sure to tune in next week when we chat with Oakley City Manager Josh McMurray and Assistant City Manager Alicia Escobar. If you would like to read more news stories of East Contra Costa County, you can do so through our website at www.thepress.net or through our Twitter and Instagram at PressedClockedIn. If you have any thoughts on this episode or any before it, you can now email them to podcasts, that's with an S at the end, at brentwoodpress.com. That's all I have for you today, but I look forward to next time. This is Melissa Van Rooten, clocking out.
Once again, I'd like to thank this week's sponsor, Bill Brandt Ford, located at 8100 Brentwood Boulevard. Whether you're looking to buy a new Ford, a used Ford, or get some work done on your Ford, you want Bill Brandt Ford. Give them a call today at 925-634-3551. That number again is 925-634-3551. Or visit them online at BillBrandtFord.com. That's Bill Brandt, BRANDT Ford.com.